Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of UPressPlay Sports. I'm your host and business manager, Richard Pereira. Joining me today is sports editor Bryce Totz, lead photographer Eston Parker III, and staff writer Kevin Garcia. Hey guys, how's it been going?
Been a busy few weeks here, especially not just at FAU, but with sports in general. So it's pretty interesting to see everything ramping up.
Yeah, it's a great time of year for I guess for the major sports, man. You know, baseball starting, basketball playoffs are here. It's not a bad time, for FAU. Well, we'll get into that.
Yeah,
it's a good form of chaos.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but yeah, this week was pretty eventful, especially for FAU football, which completed its whole month of spring training and held its annual spring game on Saturday. They had two teams play one. You got two teams from all of FAU played against each other. The red team, led by defensive line coach Kevin Patrick, and against the white team, led by defensive coordinator Todd Orlando. The red team did win 15-13, as we had highlights from N'Kosi Perry and Michael Johnson Jr., both quarterbacks, redshirt freshman Marvin Scott III, and plenty of offensive highlights. And it pretty much leaves a lot of potential to be seen heading into the 2022 season happening in the fall. So guys, what do you think of how FAU football has progressed throughout the spring training?
What I noticed most from spring football was defense was definitely a priority and dominated. Watching the practices that were open, don't get me wrong, the offense was improving, but the defense seemed to have what they needed locked in.
Yeah, definitely. Evan Anderson looks leaner, meaner, and still bigger, which should help on the defensive line a lot. Jalen Joyner looks like he's become a little more proficient and just getting by those linemen, getting to the quarterback. Yeah, Bryce, I'm with you. The defense, I feel like definitely, if you had to pick a winner, they definitely won the spring because while the defense, I think, made some definite jumps, you can say the offense as well made some, but definitely not to the same extent as the defense. But Kosi still looks pretty good. I think there's still some question marks though offensively in terms of, for me, the hands of the receivers. Drops were still a problem both in practice and the spring game. So
I agree. The drops, they were, yeah, but there is a priority on the receiving core, but I think overall the highlight, like you guys said, is the defense. Defense is going to be a focus, and that was really a big takeaway from last season, was that the defense needed to improve, and the coaching staff and everybody knows it.
Yeah, well, the defense, I would say, was a little better than the offense because at least there was some consistency on the defensive end. It was just the offense they needed a lot of work to really help the team as a whole. And while it's good to see that there haven't been improvements made on the offensive end for the football squad, still a lot of work to go on, especially heading into the fall when the 2022 season kicks in, and just got to hope for the best. And moving on from FAU football, we have FAU baseball. After getting embarrassed by UCF on March 29, 13-1 defeat, FAU got some payback on April 5th on Tuesday, getting a 5-3 victory, including a two-run homer from Nolan Shanuel, who's been having a spectacular offensive season. And then heading into this past weekend, taking on UAB. While they did lose a series, losing 2 out of 3, they did end the series with a solid offensive performance, a 13-6 victory. So guys, what have you seen from the baseball squad that has you leaving more to be seen?
Well, I think an opportunity for one is what I noticed, at least being at the game on Saturday, was that manufacturing runs can be an issue for this team at times. It seems like if Nolan Shanuel or Gabriel Rincones Jr. are not having a big game from a power perspective, it's tough for this team to score. And just manufacturing hits, getting base runners. It seems like there's an opportunity there. But I mean, that was really one thing I noticed. The game on Saturday, especially, it's closer than the box score would tell you. There was one point where the bullpen, I forgot who it was, got out of a bases loaded jam and really saved the game. That game could have been just blown wide open by UAB, but I mean, there's opportunities all across the board for sure. But I mean, Gabriel Vincunas Jr., he was CUSA Offensive Player of the Week, big honor. You love to see it.
I will say with the baseball team, there's been a lot of inconsistencies with the bullpen more than anything. The bullpen is still the struggle. Like I was talking to head coach John McCormick, though, he told me, you see these guys who want to be the starters coming out of high school, and the Power 5 conferences get the first picks. Then you get, the rest of the group of 5 schools that want to be the starter there, and you're left with not too many people that want to be a reliever there. So you're struggling there. And then on the offensive side of the ball, they're not playing small ball. I've noticed they just want to have the hard hits, hit the home runs instead of playing the bases hits. I mean, they've had men on first and third, one out, and couldn't get somebody in because they're just trying to jam it all the way home.
Yeah, Bryce, I'm with you. The bullpen is a bit of a concerning thing. I will say though, the starters, I mean, Hunter Cooley's continued to be really effective on the mound. I know he got a loss the other day against UAB, but in 8 innings pitched, he only allowed 3 runs, and all 3 of those runs were in the first inning. So also that goes back to Kevin, what you said in manufacturing runs. They've been kind of struggling to do that here and there. But like y'all have mentioned, thankfully Nolan and Gabriel Rincones, as well as I'd say Armando Albert, have been probably the most consistent players on both ends for FAU this season so far. And if one of those guys are off, especially if all 3 are off, it's like the whole team is off.
I will say it feels like the team has been off without Mitchell Hardigan this season on the offense.
Yeah. It's been pretty weird not seeing Mitch Hardigan on the field, out in the field, and helping the offense get a lot of hits and homers. It's been pretty weird not seeing him at all this season. But as you say, hopefully the bullpen comes through, because as of this recording, it's on a Tuesday, which means on April 12th, they are taking on the Miami Hurricanes, who is currently ranked 2nd in the country. So the last time we took them on was on March 23rd on Wednesday, and the FAU lost to them 7-1. So, and this time it will be on the road in Coral Gables. And Eston, I know you have a lot to look forward to in this game because you'll be covering it, but what are you thinking heading into this matchup?
I'm hoping that it's time for an upset. No, that'd be great. I can't believe I just did that. But seriously though, I'm not sure who they're gonna start tonight. I think if it's Hunter Cooley, I think they have a seriously realistic shot of pulling off the upset. But again, the last time they went down to UM, well, actually both times we played them this season, it hasn't exactly been the best games for us. Haven't looked that good. But who knows? I think even though they lost the 1 game against UAB, we saw in the last 2 games against them, they looked really good offensively. And again, going back to that first game of the series, Cooley pitched a really good game. The offense just didn't show up. So if the bats are on tonight, I think we got a shot. I'd love to see it, not just because I'm going there, but it would be really cool if we could again show that, FAU baseball can compete with the top baseball schools in the country.
Yeah, definitely. Bryce, you want to say something?
Yeah, heading into tonight, I mean, if you look at the last score, the score doesn't tell the whole story of when Miami came to Boca Raton. The bullpen kind of blew that game up. It was 1-1 through 6. Tonight, Hayden Compton has the mound for FAU, so we'll see how he does on the mound. It might be a bullpen game for them, though.
Well, hopefully FAU pulls off the upset in Coral Gables, because we have the team does have experience in beating Miami before, especially last season, beating them in the season finale. So hopefully that comes back to play. And after the Miami game, they will take on Western Kentucky for a 3-game home series from Thursday to Saturday. So hoping for the best and go Owls. And that will conclude our section with FAU sports. Heading into the national sports, we're going into the NBA. After 82 games of what was an exciting season, very competitive throughout the standings, we saw the teams who balled out get the top spots like the Phoenix Suns, the Memphis Grizzlies, the Miami Heat, and the Boston Celtics. And we saw the teams who had expectations going into the season but couldn't make it through. The Los Angeles Lakers and the New York Knicks. I'm sorry.
Of course. You had to mention the Knicks, bro. We're trying to talk about good things here, man. It's playoff season. You just had to mention the Knicks.
I'm sorry, but the Knicks added so much in the offseason only to finish as the 11th spot in the East, not even the play-in. So, and
don't remind me.
Lakers finished 11th. But hey, Obi Toppin dropped 42 in the season finale against Toronto. So you had that to be happy about.
Yes, sir. I'm throwing a party. You guys are all invited when Julius Randle gets traded. So we're going to celebrate that.
But yeah, as we look at the playoff bracket, well, we're going to look at the play-ins first. Going with the Western Conference, we have the Minnesota Timberwolves, who made a lot of surprising improvements this season, against the Los Angeles Clippers, who just got Paul George back a few games ago and is set to potentially pull off an upset if all goes well for them. So what do you think for this matchup in particular?
Listen, I'm not saying Paul George is the key to this matchup, but I think the Clippers have this one. I don't think Minnesota's ready yet.
See, I don't know. I think Minnesota's been looking good, and I know Paul George just came back, and I really want to push the playoff P jokes because it's just a pastime of mine to be clowning on Paul George, but I'm not going to do that right now. At least
we're here. I was thinking the same thing.
I'm gonna wait for him to shoot like 5 of 12 or 5 of 14 after a loss, and then it'll be my time to do that, which I'm gonna say is probably gonna be when they play each other. So, well, the game against the Wolves. So I'm gonna go with the Wolves on this one, because, well, I don't know. I don't have confidence in the Clippers until I'm not gonna have confidence in them until I'm proven wrong. So.
Yeah, I got to go Clippers. I mean, not Clippers. I'm sorry. I got to go Timberwolves too. I think Paul George, this could be one of those games where Paul George lights up the stat sheet with, 0-6 from 3 and, 3 of 19 from the field. It could be one of those games. Kawhi Leonard's not there. But I could also see Paul George come out and shoot like 5 of 8 from 3 and score 35 points. Like it could go either way. I think Minnesota is a safer bet from that standpoint, though. Just like Karl-Anthony Towns has been phenomenal this year, and people aren't talking about it because he hasn't lived up to expectations largely throughout his career. But I think this could be a coming out party for Minnesota. And how will they fare against, Memphis if they do win this game? I don't know. That's also part of it too. They're going to be motivated. They don't want to play Phoenix, I would assume. So got to watch out for that too.
Yeah, Minnesota's had a great season, especially from Karl-Anthony Towns, who really showed up. Especially out on the perimeter. He's been making a lot of threes. It's probably a career high for him from downtown. So hopefully that comes through for him against the Clippers and hopefully the Memphis Grizzlies, which I do think would be the expected first round matchup between the 2nd and 7th seed. And well, we'll see what happens from there, depending on if Paul George really comes through or just has a game where he has a 3-pointer hit the side of the backboard. And looking at the next Western Conference play-in matchup is the New Orleans Pelicans against the San Antonio Spurs. Of course, San Antonio refuses to go away from us. They are still, while their record shows otherwise, they are still pretty solid, especially with Greg Popovich, who is #1 all-time in wins as a head coach, which is very incredible. And looking at the Pelicans, who have CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram as a tag team duo, and they still don't know if Zion is actually playing or not. So what do you think will happen in this matchup?
I think this is a pick 'em. I think either team could win. I wouldn't be surprised either way, honestly. Um, I mean, the real question would be, can one of these teams actually beat the Timberwolves or the Clippers? I think that's really the question at hand. And I don't really see that happening. I mean, that would be ridiculous, bro. If like the Spurs, they won 34 games and they make the playoffs over like the Timberwolves, for example, who won damn near 50 games, like that would just be, it'd be criminal, but that's the nature of the beast.
So yeah, I kind of agree with you, Kevin. I don't really have too much confidence in either of these teams. But as far as my pick for this game, I think I'm gonna have to go with the Spurs simply because of Greg Popovich's coaching abilities. Sorry about that.
Okay.
I think that New Orleans just has too much drama within the organization and can't really figure out what's going on. I think San Antonio is a pretty level-headed team, even though they're not with the best record. Greg Popovich knows the playoffs. So
Yeah, y'all basically said what I was going to say, especially with Popovich and his playoff experience. I think they'll get past New Orleans, but again, I don't think they get past the Clippers or the Wolves, depending on who wins that game. Yeah. So, I mean, hey, at least I can say they kind of made the playoffs.
Yeah, they can definitely say that. And San Antonio will always be a tricky matchup because of the stature that is Greg Popovich, of how he coaches the Spurs. I don't think they have enough talent to actually beat the Clippers or the T-Wolves should they beat the Pelicans for that 9 and 10 play-in. And heading into the Eastern Conference play-ins, first up, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers against the Brooklyn Nets. Cleveland did so well to start the season and then started falling in the standings because once Jared Allen went out with his injury, their defense did slip and they're stuck at the 8th seed, while Brooklyn, after having a wishy-washy season for a majority of that time, they started picking it back up, had a little winning streak here and there, and now took the 7th spot. So what do you think will happen for the 7 and 8 play-in between these two teams?
I'm taking Brooklyn in this one. I think you nailed it with the loss of Jared Allen for the Cavs. It's going to make it, I think the Nets are going to beat them inside. They're going to be able to space the floor really well, they're extremely good at doing. And I think they're just going to be able to overwhelm the Cavs. So, and no disrespect to the Cavs, I think that they surprised most people, most fans of the league with the season they had. It's just not their season this year. I think they'll come back next season and be stronger. And if they're healthier, they can be a real threat next year. But this is it's a learning moment. They might, but who knows? Maybe they'll be the Knicks. They'll be like the Knicks next year. Sorry, Kevin.
Man, you guys just love doing that to me, bro. But I mean, I think as far as this game goes, I think the Cavaliers are probably, I think they're likely to miss the playoffs entirely. I think they'll lose to either the Hawks or the Hornets. I don't see them beating the Nets tonight. They just don't have enough firepower. Like that's really what it comes down to. Without Jared Allen and who's the other guy? I can't remember his name right now.
Colin Sexton, right?
Sexton, yes. Without Sexton and Jared Allen, I just don't think they have enough firepower to keep up with KD and Kyrie. It's I don't know. I don't see it.
Yeah, I see Brooklyn as a heavy favorite for this matchup and the likely matchup for them against the Celtics, which I will be heavily keeping an eye on and hoping for Boston, because Boston has had a great season after a rusty start for the first half and then dominating the second half of the season, especially entering the new year. And as you mentioned, Kevin, the 9 and 10 play-in spot for the East is the Atlanta Hawks and the Charlotte Hornets. Got a pretty fun matchup. LaMelo Ball against Trae Young. So this is pretty much a heavy wild card. Either team could win this depending on who is hot or who goes cold. But what do you think will happen in that game?
Richard, you nailed it. It depends on who's hot and cold, but I'm going to take Trae Young and the Hawks in this game. I think the Hawks are more talented than LaMelo Ball and Charlotte Hornets. I also think it'll be a really good matchup to see the Hawks and the Nets.
That, and the Hawks do have the experience from last season, surprising everyone by making a run in the Eastern Conference. I think that they have, assuming that they win this initial game, I think they can make it a really good game with the Nets. I think a Hawks and Nets game is a big toss-up if it happens, but we'll see.
I was waiting for the Knicks joke, Eston, when you talked about the Hawks going on a run last season. No, I mean, yeah, you got. I think I agree with you guys. I think the Hawks are going to take it, but I think it's going to be a pretty close game, though. I mean, these teams are both evenly matched. The Hawks don't have John Collins. The Hornets don't have Gordon Hayward, so there's two key pieces missing. That's something to keep an eye on. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, the Hawks have the experience. They went into the Garden, and we know what they did in the Garden, and they've been there, done that. If they can do it in New York, they can easily win a playoff game in Atlanta against Charlotte.
Well, even though they aren't completely healthy, as you mentioned, not having John Collins or Gordon Hayward on either team, they still have highlight reels that would make this matchup very entertaining, especially with Miles Bridges, LaMelo Ball, Terry Rozier, aka Scary Terry, and on Atlanta, always Trae Young, always something to watch for, especially popping in threes from the logo. Always got to keep an eye out on that. But yeah, those plans would be very good to see, especially from the Eastern Conference side of things. And as you look at the actual matchups that we do know about, for the East, starting with the East and going back to the West, for the East, we have the 3 and 6 spots, the Milwaukee Bucks against the Chicago Bulls. I know what we might be thinking about this matchup. It could be like a sweep or a gentleman's sweep, 4 or 5 games, but I really lean towards Milwaukee for this one. What do you guys think?
Oh, hands down. Milwaukee has this series at hand. Chicago may surprise people and win a game or two, but they're not going to get past the power that Milwaukee is.
Yeah, I don't really even see Chicago. They might win one game, but I think it's going to be a sweep. That'd be my prediction. Chicago is like they're the worst good team in the league. They're like I don't even think they won a game against teams that have a better record than them in the regular season. So I don't know. I don't see it. Maybe there's one game in Chicago where DeMar DeRozan has like 45 points and is a buzzer beater, but I think the Bucks will take care of them pretty handily.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the Bucks are going to buck them up. So bad. A nice sweep.
Personally, I think this series goes 5 games. I really do want to see Chicago get at least a game because they do have a talented core all around with Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic, and of course DeMar DeRozan. And while they don't have Lonzo Ball, they do have Alex Caruso, who is pretty brilliant as a defensive hustler and just a great playmaker all around. So hoping for the best with Chicago, wish them the best of luck, but I don't think they get past the first round. It's pretty much going to be their end of their season for them, most likely. And for the other official matchup, we have the Philadelphia 76ers and the Toronto Raptors. Personally, I think this matchup is a heavy wild card because I don't know what's going to happen with this matchup because Toronto does have players who have a lot of experience in the playoffs with Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, and up-and-coming players like Scotty Barnes. And then you look at Philly with the duo of Joel Embiid, who has had a brilliant MVP campaign, and James Harden, who, while he hasn't been terrible, he has been pretty suspect with his shooting efficiency, and that's going to be a big question mark heading into this playoff matchup. So what do you think would happen in this series?
I have this series going 7 games. I have it really tight, but I do think that Toronto will prevail. Toronto, I think, is a really good team, up and coming. I just don't know if Philadelphia is stable enough to win a series, especially lasting 7 games, as this one probably will.
Yeah, I'm with you, Bryce. I think that Toronto is gonna get by in 7. And for no hate to Joel, it's really, I think it's gonna be really unfortunate because he's been playing lights out this season, really dominant. and I don't know. I just don't see him getting by. And also, I think my claim that Doc Rivers is the most overrated coach in NBA history will continue to be proven because, well, he's not making it to the Eastern Conference Finals. So
I don't know. I mean, is he more overrated than Tom Thibodeau though? Like, I don't know. I don't even know, man. But for this series, hypothetically, you guys already covered everything spectacularly. And hypothetically, if Philly does lose in the first round, will James Harden be on a different team next season? Like, I don't know. I mean, what would happen if they lose to the first round? Like, will Joel Embiid demand a trade? Like, I don't know. That's going to get kind of crazy if they lose to the Raptors.
Yeah. This series is a heavy wild card, and I definitely see it going 7 games. I just really don't know who will make it out of this round. Like, it's either the Sixers or the Raptors, and it really just depends on how James Harden plays. Because if he is shooting lights out, I think the series goes to the Sixers. But if he's not, and the Raptors make it very interesting, I think the Raptors can't pull it off. So we'll just see what happens from there, and hope for a great series overall. And going into the Western Conference, we have the 3rd and 6th seed, the Golden State Warriors against the Denver Nuggets. While Curry is questionable to actually start the first round series because he's still recovering from an injury from a couple of games ago, they do have Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, and Draymond Green on standby. So, and of course, Jordan Poole, who is pretty much making a case to be the most improved player of the year. And they do have a pretty good depth compared to last season. And they're up against Nikola Jokic, who is trying to get a second consecutive MVP award this season after the way he played last year. So what do you think will go down for this matchup?
Denver's talented, but Golden State's even more talented. Golden State takes it in 6.
Okay, I could see it. I don't know. I think this could go either way, honestly. I think if Steph Curry plays and he plays the whole series and he's Steph Curry of old, I think the Warriors will have no problem getting past the Nuggets. But who knows what's going to happen with Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray? Are they going to make like some WWE like return and just like show up in like game 3 or something like that? Like, who knows? If they get a healthy Jamal Murray back or Michael Porter Jr. or both, it could be interesting. But the Nuggets, as they are right now, just a one-man band with Jokic going up against that juggernaut of Curry and Jordan Poole and Draymond Green, all those guys. I don't think they have enough firepower to compete with the Warriors.
with them, it'll be a fun series. But I got to go with the Warriors in 6.
Yeah, I got to agree with that. The Warriors are overall better than the Nuggets. And of course, the Nuggets still don't have Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. But even if they do get those two back in the series, I just don't think they'll be 100% to what they were a couple at the very least last season or 2 seasons ago, especially with Jamal Murray, who had a terrible injury at the time, and just hoping the best that he recovers completely. But I don't think they'll have those two in time for the Nuggets to really make a run against the Warriors in this series. And I do think the Warriors pull it off in 6. And for the last official matchup, we have the Dallas Mavericks and the Utah Jazz. I know that Dallas did have a little scary incident with Luka Doncic having a calf strain, though it won't be too severe. So hopefully they get him at 100% against the Jazz. And I do think that Dallas pulls this series off in probably 6 games. And for Utah, they were the first seed in the West last year, and they fell back to 5th. So they definitely fell back down to earth this season. And they are very prone to blowing big leads, as we've seen in some of their final games this season. So what do you think for this matchup will pretty much be the result?
I hope Dallas wins in 5. Free Donovan Mitchell, get him out of Utah, get him away from Rudy Gobert, get him on a team where he can succeed. All right, free Donovan Mitchell, bro. That's all I'm gonna say.
For me personally, honestly, I think it revolves around Luka Doncic. I hate saying that one series revolves around one player, but Dallas relies on him so much that if he's not 100% healthy and he's not playing to his full potential, I don't know, it may go a little longer than 5 games, and I think Dallas will still win, but it'll be a struggle if he's not where he needs to be. But if Luke is there 100%, it'll be a 5-game win for Dallas.
Dallas all the way. It's a tough time to be a Jazz fan because it's not that they're not talented. They have extremely talented players. They just don't work well as a duo. And Kevin, yeah, free Donovan.
Yep.
Need to see it happen. And after this season, I think the Jazz might be in the same spot as or a similar spot as Philly, where it's like, where do they go from here? So
it seems like there could be a bidding war between our teams for Donovan Mitchell's services if he becomes available. So that'll be like see how that plays out.
Will they actually pull it off though?
Right. That's the thing. Yeah. I mean, I think I like Miami's chances if it were to come down between a bidding war between the Knicks and the Heat. Just, the culture, baby.
But yeah, for this series, I do go Dallas in 6. I don't think Utah's not the same team as they were last season. But even last season, their best was a second round exit. So for this season, I really think it's a first round out this time, which is like the third first round exit in 4 seasons, which is very tough for them. So it's pretty much going to be business per usual with the Jazz, and Luka Doncic will finally get out of the first round, hopefully. But in my eyes, I think it's Dallas in 6. And with that, that'll be it for this episode of UPressPlay Sports. Make sure to hit like and subscribe. Click the bell to keep up with notifications from us. Also, be sure to go on upressonline.com to keep up with news, sports, and more content alike. To follow us on Twitter, it's for me at Rich26 Pereira, for Eston at Eston Parker, for Bryce at Bryce Totz, and Kevin at Kevin Gar 658. Thanks for watching, everybody, and have a great day.